You left a big matzo ball out there from the previous question I asked you, and that
Yeah.
was, as Jerry Seinfeld would say, as that was, you think the Eagles have made their decision on Jalen Hurts for 2022 and the future. And by the way, I think those two things could be different. What do you think that decision is?
And Jimmy Kempski, our buddy from Philly Boys, joins us. That's all the Eagles are going to do, right, Jimmy? Win 4 games in a row, no big deal.
No big deal at all. And they did it in, what was it, 2019? When they had the 4 divisional games left on their schedule? So 2019
was that the field goal year? What? Yeah, that was 2019.
2019, yeah. So they've done it before. No big deal.
And they did it week 17 at the time, Jimmy. I guess we were at FedEx Field. And that's, the team that the Eagles probably have to handle. And I think if one of those two teams can sweep the other, they're probably going to get that 7th spot because of things that are shaken out around the NFL. And boy, I got to tell you, the Dallas Cowboys put the Washington football team on a tee for the Eagles. They hurt the quarterback. They hurt the top playmaker. What else can the Eagles need?
Yeah, a couple offensive linemen too. I forget who they were. I think it was Charles Leno, maybe.
Yeah, Charles Leno. Yeah,
and one of their interior guys. So yeah, I mean they hurt 4 of their starters. It looks like Heineke's going to play. Those are the early reports.
Wow, that could be good though.
Right. Yeah, Kyle Allen actually looked okay in that game. But McLaurin, I mean, the difference between him and the rest of the receivers on that team, I mean, it's night and day. Like he's the guy that you have to stop in that passing game, and he's hurt the Eagles in the past, obviously too. But yeah, if they don't have to dedicate Darius Slay to him for the entirety of that game, and they can use him wherever else, then that's a big point check mark in the Eagles' favor in this matchup coming up.
Jimmy, just before you join us, John and I were talking about the Cowboys and how good they looked yesterday defensively and getting some guys back from injury that can get to the quarterback so they don't have to just ask a linebacker like Michael Parsons to do all the heavy lifting as far as pass rush goes. Their defense was really good yesterday, but their offense kind of disappeared. Dak Prescott looks nothing like a franchise quarterback the last couple of weeks. Good start to the season, but has come back to the pack. We know that they've got to handle their own business with Washington 2 of the next 3 weeks, but then they're probably going to have to win that final game of the season. If the Cowboys are playing for playoff positioning in that last week, how good are the Cowboys compared to the other teams in the NFC? John and I disagree on this a little bit. How do you rank them in the NFC right now?
So you look at I think there's 5 teams that are, way better than the rest of the NFC. And of course, those are the 4 divisional leaders and the Buccaneers, Packers, Cardinals, and Cowboys. And the Rams are kind of in that mix too, being the top wild card team. As far as where they rank among those 5 teams, it's hard to bet against, the big stud quarterbacks in, Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Of course, I put those 2 teams ahead of them based on the way their quarterbacks are playing and just who they are as players. The Cardinals obviously have the 10-2 record. They're the top team in the NFC record-wise. They're going to have that 1 seed more than likely, which is just a major advantage, especially now that the NFL added a 7th team. There's only 1 first-round bye, so I kind of put them ahead of them in the hierarchy. I'd have them 4th, I guess, among the NFC teams. I think obviously they have a little bit of an edge over the Rams because the Rams are, not leading their division. So I kind of have them 4th. But the point that you make about, their offense and their defense, it's weird because the way this season, even heading into the season, it looked like their offense was like, going to be like a top 5 kind of unit. And look at their defense is going to be really bad, especially with a lot of the injuries that they suffered with, DeMarcus Lawrence, for example, going out for a long stretch. But now they got him back. They got Randy Gregory back. They got Parsons back. Like, those 3 guys are like really difficult to match up with in the passing game. So, and then of course, Trayvon Diggs is, sort of in the conversation for like defensive player of the year with the way that he's played, leads the league in interceptions, made a bunch of big plays all throughout the year. their defense is like legitimately very good all of a sudden. So yeah, sort of a tough team to kind of get a handle on. If they can put it all together, like if their offense starts playing up to the capabilities that they're, up to the, the ability that they're capable of, I mean, they're big time. I mean, they're big trouble for other teams in the playoffs as we kind of get into January here. But it's obviously a very, very talented roster. But as you mentioned, sort of the flip flop of what we expected: offense not playing as well as expected, defense playing way over their heads.
Yeah, and that was kind of my point, Jimmy. They're so talented on paper when everybody's healthy. Now, everybody hasn't been healthy. Even yesterday, we talked about their offense. Ezekiel Elliott is playing, but he's banged up, so they're giving the football to Corey Clement 15 times.
Right.
Tony Pollard's not able to play. CD Lamb has been out at times. Amari Cooper with COVID. Michael Gallup was out for a long time. The offensive line was banged up. If they can get everybody together, Randy Gregory might be suspended as we speak. Who knows? But that guy has finally turned into a monster.
Yes.
He is an unbelievable player. And as you mentioned, DeMarcus Lawrence is back. They're probably not going to have the Defensive Player of the Year because Parsons and Diggs are going to split votes and Myles Garrett's going to win it.
Right.
That is a talented football team. Am I crazy?
Yeah, I mean, especially as you say, like on paper, like they are very, very scary. If they get everyone back and healthy and playing the way that they're capable of playing, I mean, they're going to be hard to beat. It'll be a tough road for them throughout the playoffs because they're going to have to win 3 games to get the Super Bowl, of course, because they're almost certainly not going to get the 1 seed. I think for the Eagles' perspective, by the way, you see them sitting there at 9-4. The Packers and the Buccaneers, each have a game up on them. Cardinals have, depending on what happens in their game tonight on Monday Night Football, could be up 2 games on them. The Eagles really need them to lose 1 more game and for those other teams to kind of pull away from them a little bit so that Week 18 game is meaningless if they're locked into that 4 seed. And obviously that'll help the Eagles' chances of making the playoffs as a wild card, substantially higher.
And, by the way, for those who haven't checked the sched lately, the Cowboys don't, like the other teams in the division, finish with just divisional games. They've got a game left against the Cardinals, which will, if the Cardinals want to be the number 1 seed, go ahead and beat Dallas and prove that you're better than the Cowboys. Put them in your rearview mirror. That comes up in a couple weeks. All right, Jimmy, we talked a lot about the opposition for the Eagles. How about the Eagles themselves? On the bye week, not coming back till the middle of the week to practice. We're all crossing our fingers and hoping that the Eagles are getting healthier with this downtime, but we won't know anything until they show back up on their quarterback, on their running backs. Remember, they kind of ended that Jet game. Miles Sanders on the sidelines. Of course, Howard not dressed. Scott didn't play much until it was absolutely necessary after Sanders went down. How you feeling about the Eagles' health right now?
Yeah, I mean, the big one for me is Jason Kelsey, too, because they said after that game that they got positive news back on him, but they stopped short of saying he's going to play Week 15. So I think when we see these guys practice on Wednesday and we get the initial practice report, that's the guy. The practice report. That's the guy that I'm looking at in terms of where is he? So I think Jalen Hurts is going to be back. Like there's I think legitimate question whether he could play or not. Week 13 against the Jets, he certainly thought he could play. You give him 2 more weeks, I fully expect him to be back. But man, if Jason Kelsey's out, I think we saw what it looks like when Nate Herbig is your center.
Yeah.
I don't know if they adjust and they put Dickerson inside. I can't imagine they do that at this point in the season. But he is the biggest injury concern I would have if I'm an Eagles fan looking up at this. And you look at like this. Washington defensive line is extremely talented and can take advantage of a guy like Herbig if he has to start. So that's the big one for me is, where's Jason Kelsey at with his knee?
Jimmy, speaking of the offensive line and Wednesday, what are we going to hear when we show up about Brandon Brooks? What is going on there?
Yeah, it's weird that they just basically said, we're not going to talk about him until after the bye week. Which is weird. And
it's like a kid. They want to push it off. I'll talk about it later.
Because he was injured Week 2 against the 49ers. And then Lane Johnson sort of volunteered that was an 8-week injury.
Yeah.
So, you do the math. He's expected to be back based on Lane Johnson, again, who's not a doctor and not Brandon Brooks' doctor, but is Brandon Brooks' friend. He should have been back week 10 based upon what Lane Johnson told us. And we're heading into week 15 now, and they could really use him, by the way, too, because they obviously lost Isaac Seumalo for the season. Now they're down Jack Driscoll as well. So, I mean, they could definitely use use him at right guard with Nate Herbig sliding back into the bench and can come off the bench and play guard if need be, if another guy goes down. So he would be a big boost if they could get him back. And it's very weird that they just said, we're not talking about him until after the bye week. So, yeah, it will be interesting to see, what this big reveal is when we talk to them again on Wednesday.
And, Jimmy, it's weird from the fact that Nick has been pretty honest, pretty above board about most injuries as compared to Doug. And,
sure.
Everything was week to week, a day. He's been concrete, and Brandon Brooks is like, we'll talk about it. I have no new information. Evidently, they don't talk about Brandon Brooks at all.
First rule about Brandon Brooks, don't talk about Brandon Brooks.
That's exactly where I was going. Jimmy, I got to ask you about one of your recent columns because I know you and I are kind of on the same page here. J-Mac, not so much. Your surprises, your upbeat surprises, both negative and positive. Your upbeats, Jordan Howard, couldn't agree more, off the practice heap, and all of a sudden he's winning games for the Eagles. Vontae Maddox, love the fact that they signed him to a contract extension. He's been great in the slot. Darius Slay, I liked it because the expectations are high, but he's been even higher than the expectations. He's been a game wrecker, to use a McMullen phrase, which I love. And Jake Elliott has had a phenomenal year kicking for the Eagles. Andre Dillard, did you really go there? Because I know you're not a Dillard guy. I'm not a Dillard guy. J-Mac is. Your capital is. He didn't suck in the 4 games they filled in this year.
He did not suck.
You couldn't go to TJ Edwards instead of Andre Dillard? Come on, Kempski.
Well, see, I expected TJ Edwards. I've always been a big TJ Edwards guy. Like I thought he was already the best linebacker on the team. So it wasn't surprising to me that he ultimately ended up being that this season. They tried to move him this offseason, by the way. They didn't think he fit this defense, and oops, actually dodged a bullet there that they didn't trade him for something like a 5th or 6th round pick or whatever, they would have gotten for him. But yeah, the point on Dillard is I had zero expectations for that guy this season. Like I thought if he had to play, it was going to be a disaster, and he held his own. He did get some favorable matchups, which, is noteworthy, but but in the 4 games that he played, he actually was legitimately decent. And I think if they were to move him this offseason, he helped, the Eagles potentially get a little bit more for him than they would have otherwise.
Yeah, and they're going to get something for him of value, I think. You see how many teams struggle with the offensive line. Andre proved enough to where somebody will take a chance on him.
They got a pick for Matt Pryor.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you see some of the offensive lines in this league, and it is tough. And that's really the strength of the Eagles. But we know Eagles fans, Jimmy, and I got to go full circle back to Micah Parsons because it's a bye week. They have nothing to do. They have to come up with something. And obviously, we know what happened on draft day. Dallas started at 10. Giants were at 11. Eagles were at 12. Obviously, the Eagles originally started at 6, so they could have had anybody who they wanted. But ultimately, people are looking at it. The Eagles are very happy with Devontae Smith. They should be. But people are starting to say, should they have looked at Micah Parsons? They would never look at Micah Parsons. He was never in this equation for the Eagles. All-ball linebacker. Come on. I'm like, they weren't looking at Micah Parsons.
They would have been using him wrongly, too.
No doubt.
He'd be playing that Sam position and he'd be effective in there. Obviously, he's a playmaker. But, they wouldn't be using him the same way that Dallas has.
He'd be Jannard Avery with a couple extra snaps.
It's actually a testament to how likable Devontae Smith is that more people aren't quibbling about them taking him over Micah Parsons, who, as you mentioned, is, probably going to split votes with Trayvon Diggs on, NFL Defensive Player of the Year, and it's going to go to Myles Garrett instead. but yeah, I mean, I think their pick of Devontae Smith was good. I thought actually Howie's draft maneuvering going from 6 to 12, picking up that extra first round pick from Miami next year, and then, moving back up to 10 and getting Devontae Smith. By the way, where the Eagles offense be? Not that Devontae Smith has like absolutely crushed it. Like he's been 50 catches, I think, for 70 something yards, 4 touchdowns. I think he's 4th in the NFL among rookies, and the 3 guys ahead of him are the guys that got picked before him: Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, and Jalen Waddle. And then there's a big gap between him and the 5th guy. So I mean, he's lived up to expectations. But like you look at this Eagles offense, if he's not there, it's Dallas Goedert, and then what?
Yeah. Wow.
So I think that's sort of a big reason that we haven't heard more complaining that they passed on Michael Parsons to draft Devontae Smith.
All right, Jimmy, along those lines, 4 games to play, and the Eagles are still trotting Jalen Reagar out there for 85% of their snaps. And the guy is not only not living up to his first-round draft status, he's hurting them with dropped balls and just not being able to finish plays. And I understand that those behind him on the bench, the Eagles don't show much confidence in at all. Is there anything they can do? I know the trade deadline is come and gone, so it's all just practice squad and finding someone hiding on a beach somewhere. But are we going to be listening to this all off season? How did Jalen Reagar continue to play throughout the season for the Philadelphia Eagles?
It's been odd how much he's played. He's barely even lost snaps with the way that he's played. Yeah. I mean, there's been legitimate arguments for him just to be benched outright. I mean, Doug Peterson even, was asked about that. I think John Clark did a podcast with Doug, and was asked, because Doug had a similar situation with Nelson Aguilar, where they sat him down for a few weeks and he came back and, clear head, whatever. I don't know. So I figured they might try something like that with Reagar. And they didn't. Not only didn't, but they didn't even decrease his snaps. He had the most snaps among the wide receivers against the Jets, which just is mind blowing that he hasn't sort of been demoted in any way whatsoever. He's not only killed him on in the regular offense, he's also made big mistakes on special teams, like that in the Jets game. Ball bounces at the 1 or 2 yard line or whatever it was, because he thought it was going to land in the end zone for a touchback. Gets tackled at the 6 yard line, I think it was. They wind up scoring a touchdown on that possession anyway, so I guess it didn't hurt him. He avoided heavy, severe criticism on that one after that game. But yeah, he's been a mess. Clearly, I mean, that's not even really analysis at this point. Anyone who knows, a non-football fan could watch the Eagles games and sort of realize that. So yeah, and as you mentioned, there isn't much behind him. If you take him out, you're either putting Greg Ward in there, which, in my opinion, at least that guy can make short catches, move the chains for you a little bit. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside at least gives you some blocking ability. I think he has proven that he should lose some snaps at least to those guys, even if those guys aren't really threatening at all to opposing defenses. That's how bad Jalen Reagar's been.
Yeah, it has been. And he did get benched as kick returner, Jimmy. They did go to Boston Scott. So I'm going to defend the coaching staff for this one, rarely. Obviously, against the Jets, they got the lead, and they went to that mode of let's run the football in the second half. So they had a lot of 12 personnel, 13. Tip of the cap to our buddy Paul Domowitz, our 12 personnel guy. But if you're going to have a receiver only on the field to block, I don't want Devontae Smith to get hurt. I don't even want Quez Watkins to get hurt. Put him out there as a crash test dummy to
that's fair.
The edge. I thought it was a smart thing to do in that instance. If they were losing and needed to throw the ball, he wouldn't have been in the game. So
that's fair.
Yeah, from that,
and at least he gives you something to think about defensively, because he does. Yeah, and he can, in theory, have speed, and you have to protect against that. So I can understand that.
So, but it brings up a point, and this is where I want to go with you. They did have a bye week, so they do have the self-scout, blah, blah, blah. Do you expect any surprises, any changes when they come out of this bye? Anything, maybe an inkling?
Yeah, I hadn't really given that much thought. I probably should have, but I think they're going to go with the formula that has worked because at this point in the season, they're not like. I think like the future's on hold, I guess, for the next 4 weeks, and you just go out and you do whatever you can to win these games as opposed to evaluate players. And I think it'll be sort of that run heavy formula that we've seen over the last half dozen games. I think at this point they probably have made up their mind one way or the other on whether they think Jalen Hurts is the starting quarterback in 2022 and beyond. Or I guess the minds can be changed, I guess, but I think they have a pretty strong inkling of the way that they're going to go on that. I think we're going to see that run heavy offense again. And, you look at their opponents the rest of the season. Dallas is, of course, better against the pass than they are against the run. The Giants, as we all documented prior to that matchup, not a very good run stopping defense. And Washington, football team can do damage if they can get to your quarterback. So I think you want to sort of, get the run game going against them as well. So I think that's what we'll see in these final 4 games.
All right, Eagle fans, before you get mad and throw anything at your computer, I'm not predicting this. I'm not projecting this. I'm just postulating it because I think the best teams in football do this. They look at the worst case scenario and they want to be prepared for it just in case. What happens if Dallas Goedert gets hurt? Brett Todd to the rescue? Really? Is Tyree Jackson ready to step up and do something for them? We're talking about depth and the ability to step in. Oh, the Cowboys look good because they got healthy. Well, where were the Cowboys fill-in players? There was such a drop-off. That's what you have to have in the National Football League. Capable. Not game-changing, but capable backups. Did the Eagles have that at tight end in case Mr. Goddard goes down?
Yeah, I think if you look at the most crucial players that they can't lose, I think they lost one week 2 when they lost Brandon Graham, and we've seen how the defense has suffered on that line since he was gone. They didn't really have a guy capable of coming in and taking the kind of snaps that he gives you. And offensively, I think Goddard is similar because he doesn't come off the field anymore, especially now with Ertz traded. He's your second best receiver in the passing game after Devontae Smith, and then as a blocker, he's sort of a plus player in that department as a tight end. So that'd be devastating if they were to lose him. And as you mentioned, the guys behind him are Jack Stoll, who I don't know how many catches he has in the season. I think it's probably like 2 or 3, and Tyree Jackson, who I don't even know if he has a target yet this year, converting quarterback. So that'd be a pretty devastating blow if they were to lose him for sure.
All right, Jimmy, last one from me, and I want to thank you for joining us on your morning commute. Everybody check out Jimmy Kempski at phillyboys.com. Does a tremendous job covering this football team. You left a big matzo ball out there from the previous question I asked you, and that was, as Jerry Seinfeld would say, you think the Eagles have made their decision on Jalen Hurts for 2022 and the future. And by the way, I think those two things could be different. What do you think that decision is?
I think they're going to move on. Not move on, but try to upgrade the quarterback position. And, a lot of different ways they can go about that, whether it's trading for a veteran. A lot of people think that this quarterback draft class isn't really strong. I think it's not that bad. I think it's just when you compare it to the 2021 class, it doesn't look as good. And certainly that's true. But, there's going to be some guys worthy of going in the first round, like Matt Corral of Ole Miss, Kenny Pickett of Pittsburgh. We'll dig into those guys a little more during the offseason, obviously. And then, you have the veterans like Deshaun Watson, who they went after hard this offseason. And I expect them to probably do the same next offseason. And then, of course, you have Russell Wilson, who's sort of been, like the guy that got away when they didn't take him in the 2012 draft and instead took Vinny Curry at the end of the second round. I think they've sort of regretted that for the last decade. And I think if they have the chance to get him and the cost isn't absolutely absurd, that's another direction they could go in. But I don't think that they view Jalen Hurts as the guy to lead the kind of offense that they want to have in Philadelphia.
All right, J-Mac, I got to put my favorite hypothetical question to Kempski as well for the upcoming week.
This is actually a good one, Jimmy.
Okay.
All right. First things first, your stance about going forward with Jalen Hurts and they're aggressive, going to go look elsewhere, see what they have. Here's what I will say. If they look and they flirt and then nothing happens, the kid who's their quarterback now can actually handle that. He won't be put off. He won't be demanding a trade out of town. He won't let it get inside his head like the previous Eagles starting quarterback did. So give Jalen Hurts at least that much credit.
Yes.
This weekend, first half, Jalen Hurts back. He's looking fine out there on the field. Only he knows how close he is to 100%, whether it's 95, 90, 85, 80. He's their starting quarterback. It's not good. He's 8 of 18 at half. He's only thrown for 50 some odd, 60 some odd yards. The Eagles are trailing 10-3. He's only had 2 runs for 10 or 12 yards. It's not even a good Jalen Hurts game, which is kind of up and down to begin with. Who's starting the second half? Are they sticking with Jalen Hurts, or is it Gardner Minshew to the rescue?
Yeah, so I'm going to take a step back from that real quick, and I'll just say this. So when you look at what Gardner Minshew is as a player, I'll start by saying he's short, he doesn't have a good arm, he's not athletic. What he has done over the course of his career in college and in the pros so far is he has maximized the limited talent that he has, and give him credit for that, for getting everything out of his abilities that he can. However, if you bench Jalen Hurts for Gardner Minshew, you're benching him in favor of a short, weak-armed, non-athletic quarterback, and you are absolutely wrecking his value for next offseason. So, on the one hand, I said a minute ago that, at this point in the season, they're not looking toward the future. They're looking to win these games. But at the same time, they're going to be mindful about, not completely killing the value of a quarterback who could be, included in a trade for something like a Deshaun Watson or a Russell Wilson or whatever it may be. Because, the options are going to be far and wide this season, and they want to make sure that he still has some value. I don't think they're going to, have like sort of that quick trigger on pulling him. If he's absolutely horrendous, like if he's 2 of 16 and they're losing by 2 touchdowns, but the opportunities are there and maybe they could get back into a game with pulling him and putting in the starting, putting in Gardner Minshew instead, then yeah, I can maybe see that. But if it's like a 7-point deficit and he's just kind of like not great through the first, I don't think they can pull him that quickly. Even if they, these games do mean so much in terms of, them making the playoffs this year or not. I don't think they can have a quick trigger, and I don't think they will.
Jimmy, good stuff. We appreciate you hopping on. Get to wherever you're headed safely. We'll surely get you on between now and the end of the season. Thanks for being part of Birds 365 today.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Jimmy Kempski, Philly Boys, here with us on Birds 365. He's always good when he comes on. But I got to tell you there at the end, John, that was not a glowing scouting report of Gardner Minshew.
No. And he's right. That's what Gardner Minshew is.
I don't think he's right. I think he's a little harsh.
He's short. He's got a weak arm. He's not terribly athletic.
You would call him a weak arm. I don't call him a weak arm. I call him a below average arm. There's a difference. Well, I know we're doing this semantical hair splitting here. But
I would say below average arm as well.
But league.
I think that's what Jimmy means by when we say weak arm, we mean below average NFL arm. He's got a good arm compared to me. I mean, I'm comparing him to other NFL quarterbacks. Well, so I agree. Your term is probably.
If Kempski was still on here, I'd ask him too. But instead, I'll ask you, who's got a better arm of the two? If let's say Jalen Hurts' foot is not right and he doesn't start,
Jalen Hurts has a better arm.
No. That wasn't the question I'm asking. Let's say Jalen Hurts can't start on Sunday. Who's got the better arm of the 2 starting quarterbacks?
Taylor Heineke, that's good, versus Gardner Minshew. I haven't seen, I would guess Taylor Heineke has a slight edge, maybe a slight, but they both have weak arms.
There you go. That's the point I'm making. It's not so bad if you put a weak-armed quarterback, if that's what you're going to call him, a weak-armed quarterback, put him in against another weak-armed quarterback. And oh, by the way, I'll take Gardner Minshew against whatever the Giants serve up the week after, be it either Daniel Jones or Mike Glenn or Jeff Fromm, whoever happens to be their quarterback. The only strong-arm quarterback they're playing the rest of the way home is Dak Prescott, week 18.
And by the way, I don't think strength of arm is necessarily the differential. I'm defending Jimmy's scouting report. Jimmy's scouting report was correct. He's short. He's certainly short for an NFL quarterback. He has a weak arm for an NFL quarterback, and he's not athletic, but I think he has some functional mobility. He's got some pocket smarts, be able to move around a little bit. I think all of that is fair. Yeah, but, like I said, people will call NFL receiver like Greg Ward. Greg Ward, your guy. He's slow. He's slow for an NFL receiver. He's fast for everybody else on the planet, pretty much, for an NFL receiver. So that's what we're talking about when we say weak arm. Like Reed Sinnett, the third-string quarterback who probably can't play a lick, has a much stronger arm than Gardner Minshew or Jalen Hurts. But, he's not as good a quarterback, so there's more things that come into it. I just think Jimmy's scouting report of Gardner Minshew is fair. Yeah, that's what he is.
I thought it was a little harsh. He did see the Jet game last week that when
Gardner played well. Doesn't mean
11 consecutive passes in a row, did he not? The small, weak-armed quarterback who went 11 for 11 to start the game? Really? That's the scouting report you're going to hand in?
Yeah, still doesn't change. I mean, look at the majority of those throws, and look at somebody with a big arm and look at how they throw the football. Look at Josh Allen. You got to see Josh Allen in the national window. He might have the stronger. I'm trying to think. Does anybody have a stronger arm than Josh Allen right now?
I might take the guy who came on after him.
Aaron?
Yeah.
I'm never going to dispute the arm strength. I just mean at this stage of his career, I think Josh probably's got, Josh is a Aroldis Chapman. He's got the 105 on the gun, but Aaron Rodgers is obviously much better.
He's 100 with movement.
Yes,
Josh
exactly.
Allen might be 105 straight. I'll take the guy.
That is a tremendous analogy, Jody.
I'll take the guy with a little movement on his 100-mile-an-hour splitter. He is John McMullen. I am Jody McDonald. We are the Mac and Mac guys. I'm Birds 365. We'll come back kicking around Eagles, Washington football team. Yes, the countdown has begun. We had to wait 2 weeks. We're now down to less than a week before the Eagles get back onto the field after their bye week. We got that much more to break down. And joining us this hour, next hour, we've got a couple minutes left here in hour number one, our bud, Derek Gunn, Mr. Post-Game Show live here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. D Gunn's going to join us about 20, 25 minutes from now, so keep it where you've got it. I'm Birds 365.